Hi everyone, Amanda here. Welcome back to my book nook. So today we are going back into horror. Please, I'm gonna do a quick thing. Forgive me for the stickers on the book. I never took them off and I'm not gonna quickly do this right now, but it is what it is. Today we are gonna be talking about Stephen King's Dr. Sleep. So, Dr. Sleep is a sequel written multitudes of years later for The Shining. I will say, having read The Shining and watched both the movies, I actually liked the book Dr. Sleep better than The Shining. I also really like the fact that if you were to go into it without having seen The Shining or read The Shining, you don't need to have that knowledge in order to read and understand what's going on in the book. Anytime there are references in regards to The Shining, there is enough detail put in there that without having read it, you're given enough to go through. So, Dr. Sleep, we are now dealing with an adult Danny Torrance. So, he is Dr. Sleep. He works at a hospice, not actually as a doctor. He never went to medical school or anything. It is a nickname that the hospice gives him because when the hospice cat lets them know that one of their patients is about to die, because, you know, cats, it's one of those nice little urban legends with the cats that you do see a lot of times in hospitals, that they can find the people that are about to die because of smells or body temperature. So when when the hospice cat is like, hey, this person's about to die, they'll call on Dr. Sleep because he helps make their passing easier, because he's able to use his shining to reach out what it is that the person's needing to hear, what they're needing him to talk to them about, and he makes it an easier passing for them. Following everything that had happened at the Overlook Hotel, when Danny becomes an adult, he becomes an alcoholic. There's a lot of talk in regards with that before him getting to the place that he lives as Dr. Sleep. So that's a lot of his backstory to get into where we're at. We also have a girl, Abra. And Abra also has a Shining. She has it very, very, very strong, to the point that she's able to connect with Danny without ever having met him. She's born 2001, and she can actually starts bawling and crying before 9/11 happens because she knows it's about to. Abra's very strong with the Shine. You also have our antagonist in this, which is the True Knot, led by Rose the Hat. And these are, probably the best way to describe them are vampires, but they're more of a psychic vampire. They feed on the Shine. So they feed that, they call it steam, they take it in, and it keeps them alive, it keeps them young, and they can also use the steam to turn someone into part of them. The last one that they did that to was in '82 with a woman that they call Snakebite Andy. And the True Knot is running low on steam. Rose finds out about Abra and how strong she is and comes up with the idea, and the Knot comes up with the idea of, hey, we don't just need to feed on her once. We could keep her alive and just have her be an ongoing feeding source. Gonna give this one a 9 also. It was a great read. I loved it. It is about a 520-page book. So something I've noticed now that I've done, now that I've talked about 3 books that I ended up giving 9s to, apparently those 400 plus books I like to give 9s to, because all 3 of the ones that I've done this to have all been 400 plus books. I have a feeling that's not the only thing that'll be happening to, but I just think it's kind of a funny little thing for right now. So now we'll go into the spoilery discussion aspect of the book. So going back with Danny, early on after the Overlook, when he first leaves, he's still getting tormented by Miss Macy. She was the bathtub ghost and the person who originally owned the Overlook. And he does at some point reach out to Dick Hallorann. And he helps him go through this because, again, Dick also had Shine. And he helps him establish making these lock boxes where you can take these things that are constantly coming after you and lock them away so they aren't able to get out and continue this effect. So the biggest everything in regards to the main bulk of the story aspect that you deal with in regards with Danny, and this was kind of part of the thing that helped push him along the lines of getting into AA, is, so another thing again, he's drinking, he's doing drugs, he's also hooking up. But one of the people that he ends up doing this with, was he's leaving her house and taking her money because he needs it. Her toddler comes in and tries to grab her cocaine, thinking that it's candy. And he's like, and he realizes, okay, there's definitely some stuff, it's getting too much here. The other thing that pushes him for AA is the place that he ends up settling, and the first job that he gets there before working at the hospice, the person's not going to hire him if he's drunk, because he was a former alcoholic. And so he ends up getting through talking to him about getting to AA and going through the process and everything. So Abra's doctor also works at the same hospice that Danny does, which is one of the connections that they have. But early on, before they even know of each other, Abra was contacting Danny through the Shine by writing on a blackboard. Like, she knows Tony and knows who he is. And they, at one point, they do eventually meet in person because they do live very near each other. And to help out with some of the making sure that no one's like, okay, who is this weird guy with this girl? She introduces him as her uncle. So, going back with the True Knot real quick, because it's, again, very important. Abra is able, at one point, to see the true hat with the Shine, and this is how Rose the Hat also is able to see her and realizes that she wants it because they can see through each other's eyes and everything. That is how strong Abra's Shine is. Rose and the Knot also at one point got this kid, Brad, to feed off of him and his steam. Brad had measles because his family were anti-vaxxers. Please remember to vaccinate. Because we don't need outbreaks of diseases we have vaccinations for. Please, vaccinate. And when they take in the measles, remember, the last person was turned in 82. She was in her 30s when she was turned. Guess what didn't exist, though, when she was a child? The measles vaccine. None of them have any immunity to measles. And they start getting it. And it starts killing them. Very slowly. Only a couple at first start dying. And when someone in the True Knot dies, they do what is called cycling, where you'll see them and then they turn transparent. And then they come back to whole. Then they go transparent, maybe a little bit more. And this just keeps happening until all that's left of them is their clothes, because everything has disintegrated into nothingness. So Rose realizes that not only does Abra have enough Shine that they could feed for years on her, she also is likely vaccinated and will provide them protection from the measles. Which is now a second reason that they really, really want her. Abra's grandmother, Concetta, ends up in the hospice because she's dying of cancer. Abra, Danny, Dave, who is is Abra's pediatrician and Danny's doctor friend, they all are starting to work, trying to figure out a way to get the true hat before they can get Abra. They did have to, though, explain Dave what the Shine is and everything. This then also expands to eventually telling Abra's parents, because they kind of need to bring her into this, and another person, Billy, who is helping out. Abra ends up getting kidnapped by the True Knot with Billy. They kind of get carjacked by one of the people that was sent out, because only one manages to survive going to get them. Everyone else, one cycled out because of measles. The other ones, when they first tried to get Abra, Dave and Danny were able to kill. So they get Abra, and they're going back to the RV campground that the True Knot is at. The RV campground that the True Knot is at is on the grounds of the old Overlook Hotel before it was destroyed when the boiler exploded in The Shining. Danny finds this one and he's like, well, shit. It's basically his thought process of he has to go back there in order to save Abra. He also does something similar to what the True Knot does and takes Concetta's life force while she's in hospice and dying, which means that he also takes her cancer. So when he does this, he starts deteriorating very quickly because he just pulled cancer into himself. And Concetta dies as the process of all of this. So they end up going to where the RV campground is. Some of the people of the True Knot have left the knot. They think Rose is going too fixated on this girl. None of them at this point have gotten measles. They don't think they're going to. We don't find out what happens to that small group that does break away and leave. We don't know if they end up getting measles or not. It's up in the air. Considering so many people in that group were getting measles, they probably got it and died, but we have no guarantee. So they're trying to save Abra, and ultimately, the way that they're able to do that is Danny does a couple of things. First off, he opens up those lock boxes of the people from the Overlook, and they help a little bit because, hey, this is actually where they want to be, and the person who owned the Overlook's very, very violent, so he kills one of them. And then it's like, hey, I'm just going to stay here, this is where I am. And even if they were to go back after Danny, we don't see this happen in the book, even if they were going to, Danny's able to lock him away again. The other thing he does is he releases what he had taken from Concetta. And that puts that cancer into everyone from the True Knot. So that is how they die. And luckily for Danny, apparently doing that got it out of him. So he's fine and healthy at this point. One of the really interesting little things that they did with this, though, also is, again, how I mentioned that Abra would talk about Danny as her uncle when meeting people. Abra's mother, you find out, is Danny's half-sister because Jack Torrance did not stay faithful and did have an affair, and that is how Abra's mother came to be. So that even though we know from other people who had gotten it that the shine's not just in the Torrance family, that is probably where the shine entered for Abra to get it. That it was in the Torrance line because both now Danny and Abra, who actually is Danny's niece, had the shine. So there is actually a family connection there. They all manage to go back. They keep up with their family and everything. So yeah. So one of the things with The Shining is when Stephen King wrote that, and a good bulk of books written around that time as well, he was on a lot of drugs and a lot of alcohol. It's something that he talks about. For Dr. Sleep, he had gone through AA. So in a way, not only is this a sequel in regards for the fact that it's a second book for that, it also, though, has that whole thing of, like, with The Shining, with how Jack was, because Jack was very severely alcoholic and everything, in addition to losing his mind, being in the Overlook. Like, that book has a lot of talking about addiction and losing yourself to it, whereas this book does have a lot more of the talking about going through the process of healing, going through rehabilitation, going through AA, and it's some of those really nice little real-life intricacies between them. Again, I liked this one better. I really do like The Shining. I think it's a great book. I think I enjoy both of the movies. Yes, I know that the Kubrick one is very, very different from the book, and Stanley Kubrick was a dick to everyone on set. But it was still a good movie, as was the second one. But yeah, so I like this one better. So yeah, thank you for listening. I hope to see you when I do the next book. And again, like the video, review it, give me some comments if you want. Subscribe to the channel so when I get the next one up, you'll know about it. And also ring that notification bell. It'll help you make sure that when a video is up, you'll be able to know about it. Thank you all. Bye.